What if AI is automating the one thing that's always made us human? Intelligence itself. And how do we ensure that it's developed safely? What if the AI technology we're creating right now is fundamentally different from every innovation in human history? Not because of what it can do, but because it can think. Hello, you're listening to Where What If Becomes What's Next from Carnegie Mellon University, where we ask the bold questions that become innovations for the betterment of humanity. I'm your host, Randy Scott, and welcome to the podcast. Today, the first of a two-parter conversation about how we develop artificial intelligence safely and for the benefit of society. We're joined by Dr. Zico Kolter, a figure who stands at the center of AI's transformation. As head of the machine learning department at Carnegie Mellon University and a newly appointed board member at OpenAI, Dr. Kolter isn't just observing AI's evolution, he's actively guiding it. In this first episode, we'll explore how Carnegie Mellon is building the future of machine learning education and research, and we'll explore Dr. Kolter's work on AI safety and security at CMU and at OpenAI. How do we ensure that the most powerful technology humanity has ever created serves the common good? And why is this technological moment fundamentally different from anything we've experienced before? This is a conversation about intelligence itself, what it means to automate it, how to secure it, and ultimately, how to ensure it makes our world more resilient rather than more fragile. Zico, let's begin by discussing your work and research at Carnegie Mellon around AI and AI safety. The university's machine learning department, started in 2006, was the first of its kind in the country, the first academic department dedicated entirely to this field. So why don't you tell us a bit about the department and what makes it special?
Yeah, the machine learning department at CMU really is, I think, a unique place. As you mentioned, a department that really is focused entirely on machine learning, on advancing the science, the empirics, the applications of machine learning. We have about 40 faculty that work, again, all on machine learning. And as a group, we've really been driving the frontier of machine learning and AI broadly for the past more than 25 years since the department was founded.
Okay, when do you think about those 40 faculty members and the work happening in your department? What are the real-world applications that excite you the most? Where is this research actually touching people's lives?
I mean, we really touch on almost everything you can imagine in terms of applications in the department here. It's almost hard to talk about there being a separation between research and applications when it comes to a field like AI and machine learning these days. The work we do in the department is capable in a very, very short time of making this leap from fundamental innovations in things like large language models to tools that everyone kind of uses every day. And this is the amazing thing about working in a field like machine learning is just how fast we are able to take ideas and see them used in practice. Now, as a few examples of this, our faculty have been leaders in the intersection of AI and biology, of AI and health, of AI and education. There really is such a broad range of things that we are working on. The wonderful thing about this field is just how fast we are able to take technology, fundamental advances, and really see the impact both across industry, but more importantly, across people's lives.
Yes, that speed of impact you're describing. It seems to demand collaboration across disciplines. How important is interdisciplinary cooperation to the work you're doing at CMU?
Look, AI touches on every single field there is right now. There's no sort of notion in which you could even really think about AI as a separate field in and of itself. What's happening with AI globally is that AI is becoming a field that touches everything else, right? So when it comes to science, when it comes to math, when it comes to programming, these fields are all being fundamentally shaped by AI, and there's no real way to separate kind of what's at the frontier in these applied fields from what's on the frontier of AI and machine learning research.
There it is. That brings us to the urgent question underlying all of this progress. Safety. With AI developing at this unprecedented pace across the globe, how do we ensure it's developed responsibly? You recently joined the OpenAI board and you're chairing their safety and security committee. Now, OpenAI burst onto the scene when it launched ChatGPT in 2022, one of the first and arguably the most popular conversational AI platform. The company also created DALL-E, which generates AI images from text, numerous GPT large language models, and most recently, Sora 2, an AI program that generates hyper-realistic videos from text for its social media app. Zico, what drew you to take on that responsibility at OpenAI?
The opportunity to, in addition to my academic role, kind of interface with one of the leading companies in the entire space, really, I think the leading company in the entire AI space, and help oversee their safety processes, I think is one of the most high impact and consequential pieces of work that I can imagine. And so I was really thrilled to be able to take on that role and that responsibility. In terms of the overall role of what the Safety and Security Committee does, board committees in general oversee operations at a company, right? So we're not doing the core safety work of the company itself. The company is doing its own safety work. There's a very, very large group of safety researchers at OpenAI that are pushing forward the frontier of what's possible when it comes to safety. But the role of the Safety and Security Committee on the board is to sort of oversee that and provide governance and oversight, like any other board committee, helping steer the directions that we think are important, sort of, again, provide oversight and the guidance that we can on helping to understand kind of what are the directions that need the most attention. And I think it's a really unique opportunity to take all the work that I've done and that as a community we've done in AI safety and AI security and really see this applied in one of its most consequential possible areas, kind of at the intersection of a frontier AI company and this massive topic of AI safety.
AI safety is, as you said, a massive topic. We'll explore specific issues later, but I want to know, what about AI safety keeps you up at night? What are the top concerns racing through your mind?
There's a huge number of concerns, and I tend to actually kind of bucket these. I'm going to give you four because I tend to think these are sort of bucketed into four categories that I think about right now that really help me assemble what's happening in this field right now. And to be clear, this is not a ranked ordering. I don't think that some of these are more important than others. In fact, I think just the opposite. I think the real critical aspect of AI safety is that all of these things have to be dealt with. We can't kind of prioritize some over others. We have to really think about the far-reaching impact of all of these things.
Okay, got it. So, what's the first bucket?
So the first of these actually is, in some sense, the most narrowly scoped and the most immediate, though. It's when it comes to things like security and data exfiltration and prompt injection in AI systems. So what this basically means is that AI systems that are being widely used across a lot of critical domains across enterprise right now, and they can kind of be tricked, or without safeguards, I should say. They could be tricked into doing things like sending your code or data to third parties. If you receive an email and an AI processes that email, it could basically use that to send an email to someone else without your knowledge. And so there really is a ton to be done about just ensuring that the AI agents that we are building act in a secure fashion, that don't violate kind of the security protocols we have in place for other software. AI is not natively good at this. And so when I say we, I mean, both CMU and my research, as well as actually I have also a startup, Gray Swan AI, that works exactly in the space. And then, of course, also work going on at labs, places like OpenAI. There's a ton of work going on here to make these systems more secure.
How about the second bucket that concerns you?
There are also, I would say, a whole field of emerging risks that is coming just from the widespread use of AI. And this involves things like people's mental health when they use AI systems very frequently. It also involves things like the effects of AI more broadly on society, right? So what about the effect it has on jobs and things like this, the downstream effects it will have on people and society? I think this is a very separate topic from the first one, but also a topic within AI safety that needs to be thought through and thought through, frankly, by a lot of experts in a lot of different fields, because this touches on psychology and economics and many, many other areas that all need to be brought together to understand the impacts and the effects of this new technology that is all of a sudden seeing massive uptake and massive use across the population. That's number two. Number three are what I kind of simply call catastrophic risks. So these are cases where, look, AI is rapidly evolving in its capabilities. And along with a number of extremely good things that can come with this, advances in medicine, advances in programming, advances in basic science, there are also real risks. I mean, some things that we sort of associate with high levels of knowledge in certain areas, the ability to build biological, chemical weapons and things like that. These are things that AI systems, if not already, may soon be able to do. And we really need to understand, how can malicious users essentially themselves be incredibly empowered by AI systems to do things in the biological or chemical spaces, in cyber attack spaces, in many of these areas, to sort of really cause a lot of harm by directly leveraging AI technologies.
And what's in the fourth bucket then?
I work on this last one the least, but we need to really also make sure that we don't lose sight of a little bit further afield risks, like increasing AI capabilities to the point where we can no longer control these systems. So I'm really talking here about sort of sci-fi scenarios, right? There's a recent book out about actually superintelligence and the possibility of it taking over and destroying all humanity. And while, again, this is not the main area that I work on, I think it is critically important to sort of pay attention to these arguments to understand what is the possibility of these systems we are building, what is the trajectory of how intelligent they are getting, and account for the risks. And these are hugely broad topics, each of them. And I think it is also critically important that I really don't want to prioritize one of these over the other. They are all critically important topics to the safe deployment of AI systems. And we need people working on all of these things if we're going to further AI safety and further the development and release of AI models.
This seems like a good place to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk further with Professor Kolter about ways to guide the safe development of AI.
This podcast is brought to you by Carnegie Mellon University. Located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, CMU is a private, international research university, consistently ranked among the top universities in the world. Its trailblazing research is focused on creating, defining, and accelerating the future of artificial intelligence. For more information, please visit ai.cmu.edu.
Welcome back. You're listening to Where What If Becomes What's Next from Carnegie Mellon University. We're talking with Zico Kolter, head of the machine learning department at Carnegie Mellon University and a newly appointed board member at OpenAI, where he chairs their safety and security committee. Zico, you've outlined 4 critical areas where we need to be guiding the safe development of AI. The first is around data security and privacy. The second is around broader societal issues such as impacts to jobs, the economy, and mental health of AI users. The third is bad actors potentially using AI to more easily create catastrophic events. And the fourth are far-fetched but still important scenarios where AI essentially runs uncontrolled and takes over the world. My question then is, how do you put effective guardrails on AI development? Can we rely on private companies to self-manage the way that OpenAI is doing? Do we need government oversight, local, federal, or international? And what role should academia play in all of this?
I think there's a need for involvement of all parties on this. I think these are critically important issues, and we need both companies to be highly involved at the frontier developing what's possible. We need academic research that furthers the frontier in cooperation with companies. There are many aspects of AI these days where it's very hard for academia to make solid progress. We just don't have the compute that a lot of these big industry labs do. But safety is actually an area where I think we can make amazing progress, right? We can really contribute to these ideas because they often aren't the ones that need the most compute. They are sort of conceptual and methodological advances that we are very capable of working on in an academic budget. And then finally, yes, it will require regulatory structures and things like this, hopefully coordinated structures that are consistent and coherent and that frankly can adapt very quickly because this field is changing so fast. But all of these things, in my view, are needed and need to sort of play together in order to really further the field of AI safety.
Now, we faced technological disruption in the past. Is AI another chapter in that story, but happening with greater speed and volume? Haven't we been here before, or is something fundamentally different happening with the AI revolution?
I would argue we have not been here before. I know there is the possibility and there is the argument by some people that, look, AI is another technology, and we've been through technology revolutions before, been through the Industrial Revolution, right? That took a society that was, largely agrarian and transformed it to an industrial society. We went through the computer age, right? And so we've had transformations before. But the thing that I want to highlight here is that in all these transformations, it was the automation of some parts of humanity, right? So you could argue the Industrial Revolution kind of automated humans as sort of the mechanism of work, right? Physical work it automated, right? We didn't need to assemble things in the same way. We didn't need to sort of do a lot of the mechanical labor we used to. The technological revolution of computers, of course, automated a huge amount of communication, of sort of computations and things like this too. Let's just be apparent though about and blunt about what AI is automating. AI is automating intelligence, right? AI is automating this thing that for ages has been kind of this only human characteristic, this thing that only humans really exhibited in the sense that we typically think of sort of high level intelligence, at least at the level of sort of logical reasoning and things like this that that the humans do, or at least at a higher level than say animals do. And this is what we're talking about automating. We're talking about automating reasoning and intelligence. Don't get me wrong. I don't think this means that there's no place for humans, right? That is not my argument here. But my argument is that this thing that has made us very special for a very long time is no longer going to exist as a differentiator. We will no longer be special in this way going forward. And that fundamentally is a revolution unlike any other. Now, I think a lot of aspects of the technology, the adoption, all these sorts of things will play out very much like previous technological revolutions. How industry and enterprise uptakes this technology and integrates it in their existing frameworks, this kind of stuff. I agree. That will largely mirror, at least in the short term, a lot of other technological adoption. But fundamentally, I really do think there's something characteristically different about what's being developed here. And we shouldn't lose sight of that and just sort of ignore this technology or think of this technology as just like anything else we've developed before. In my mind, it really is not like anything else we've developed before.
So when we're giving this unprecedented intelligence access to our most critical infrastructure, power grids, air traffic control, financial systems, and it can think, decide, and act with human-like capability, the stakes for getting safety right become exponentially higher, don't they?
We've developed ways to operate safely with stochastic, untrustworthy intelligences, namely people. And so a lot of infrastructure has been built around accounting for the untrustworthiness of people. And I think that's actually not a bad analogy to sort of what we need to do here. And an analogy is sort of what we need to sort of build. In addition, of course, to safeguards that work on the models themselves, we also need to build structures and systems that allow us to plug this technology, which maybe still will make mistakes, just like humans make mistakes very often, into these critical systems. And so I think the solution is not a simple one, and it's not a matter of just having safeguards on one aspect or the other. It's a matter of really saying, look, we know systems are not perfect. We know AIs are not perfect, and we probably can never guarantee their perfection, despite our desire to do so. But we've operated for very long with very imperfect systems already, and we need to ensure that we can translate that sort of mindset and those kind of structures into ones that also work with AI systems and AI agents.
You hear this a lot, people comparing AI to nuclear energy, something that can be harnessed for tremendous good or, of course, catastrophic harm. Is that a useful analogy? And what's fundamentally different about AI compared to nuclear technology, particularly in terms of who has access to it?
I think this is the big distinction, right? Is that nuclear energy being a large, physical, and expensive, clunky thing is not something that sort of you typically would think about giving to every person in the world, right? You wouldn't think about giving everyone their own nuclear power plant, which could be repurposed into a nuclear weapon if they so desired. So the analogy is not a bad one, because I think that we actually have learned a lot historically from kind of the safeguards around how we coordinate global possession of nuclear power and things like this. But it's in some sense doesn't tell a great story either, right? I mean, there's a lot of arguably near misses, a lot of things that could have gone much worse than they did. And it's very tenuous, even right now, you would say, the balance that we find ourselves in with this thing that very few people in the world actually possess, right? And now if you think about kind of this same situation evolving, but it's kind of in the hands of everyone, or at least a lot more people, right? And I guess you could also argue, who really has control of the AI? Is it really everyone that has access to the tools, or is it just the large labs, or maybe labs that can build a big enough cluster and things like this? And I don't know the perfect state of this analogy. I think it's not bad to think about how humanity as a whole has dealt with the emergence of a potentially good, but also potentially catastrophic resource before. So I don't know how perfect an analogy it is, but I do think that there likely is something to be learned about sort of power systems and game theoretic considerations of how humans interact and how large groups of humans interact with incredibly powerful technology.
Which circles back to your earlier point about what makes AI fundamentally different than previous technology revolutions. We're not just creating an incredibly powerful technology, we're creating an intelligence equal to our own, with all its potential for both good and harm, which then requires an unprecedented effort for safe and thoughtful development. So, that concludes part 1 of our episode. Thank you to our guest, Professor Zico Kolter, and thanks to you for listening. In part 2, we will continue our conversation with Professor Kolter by doing a deep dive on some specific challenges facing AI, including the erosion of trust and whether AI is running out of energy and data. And we'll talk about the coming of the next big thing in AI, artificial general intelligence, and Professor Kolter's vision for AI's future. Please check the show notes where you'll find links to additional resources for this episode. And to learn more or contact us with a story, idea, or comments, please visit cmu.edu/whatsnextpodcast. If you are enjoying this show, please rate and review us on your favorite podcast site and be sure to share with friends. Oh, and subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. I'm Randy Scott, and you've been listening to Where What If Becomes What's Next from Carnegie Mellon University, where we are asking the bold questions that become innovations for the betterment of humanity. Stay tuned and stay curious.